There's a blind woman on Long Island who faces eviction tonight. She says her landlord is trying to throw her out of her apartment, but she does not know why that is. Vince Lipari of our bureau on Long Island has a report on this story.
This is Annette Gabrielli. She is divorced, 43 years old, and blind. She adds to her supplemental Social Security of $300 a month by assembling pens in her apartment where she has lived for 4 years. But now her landlord wants to evict her.
That's all I have left, is these 3 rooms. I have nowhere else I could go. My friends and my family are only over here in Levittown. And I put everything I had into this apartment. I don't know what more I could say.
We found Mrs. Gabrielli's 3-room apartment to be well kept. She said she had fixed it up recently by putting wallpaper and cabinets in the kitchen. She had the living room painted and her bedroom carpeted. She claims, though, the landlord is slow in fixing things up, like her stove, a peeling ceiling, the Venetian blinds. She fears her complaints are the real reasons why her landlord wants her out. Mrs. Gabrielli is a desperate woman. She desperately wants to stay in her apartment, so much so that she has made an offer to her landlord that very few tenants would ever make. What was that offer, Mrs. Gabrielli?
That I would pay for anything that would break in the following year, and anything that he said I broke last year, which wasn't very much of anything worthwhile. I would pay for any damages at all.
We tried talking to the landlord, Robert Fontanetta, by phone. All he said was that he wanted Mrs. Gabrielli out because she is undesirable, would not elaborate, and then hung up on us. We caught up with the landlord and his attorney here at the offices of the New York State Division of Human Rights, where Mrs. Gabrielli has lodged a complaint that she is being discriminated against because she is blind. Neither Fontanetta or his attorney would talk to us on camera. They just said that the blind woman had been abusive and destructive to her apartment. Most of Mrs. Gabrielli's rent is subsidized by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. HUD will stop those funds coming October 13th because Mrs. Gabrielli's landlord refused to renew her lease, though she could get a reprieve depending on the decision reached at this hearing. In Hempstead, Vince Lipari, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And that commission involved in the hearing is to make its decision in the next couple of weeks, and of course we'll keep you up to date on that story. Roger?
After 6 months of decline, production of U.S. factories and mines increased in August by 0.5%. This is seen as an additional evidence that the recession may be over. Meanwhile, in Washington, representatives of savings and loan associations charge government policies keeping money away from them and driving up mortgage rates. They predict 12 to 13% for the rest of this year, more than 10% next.
Mayor Koch and the city's unions are having at it again. This time they're squabbling over political contributions. The unions support a bill before the city council that allows union members to check off part of their paychecks for a political action fund. Mayor Koch does not like that idea. He accuses the unions of coercion. Roger Sharp has more.
City Council Bill 782 would allow municipal employees to contribute voluntarily to union political action funds by check-off payroll deduction. The money given by city workers could only go to federal elections. Several other major cities already do it, but here, Mayor Koch is violently opposed to the idea, claiming in a letter to the council's labor committee that it would create a political slush fund that will ultimately harm, not help, the city in its fight for aid in Washington. Union leader Victor Gottbaum claims the mayor's stand shows Koch is moving right and is anti-labor.
He plays to the emotions. He plays to that lower middle class group. And I must admit he does it effectively, but he can't keep it up. It's really sick. I mean, it's terribly sick.
The checkoff issue has obviously reignited the old hostility between Gottbaum and the mayor. The implications of the issue actually go far beyond the specific bill before the council right now.
Supposing the businessmen who do business with the city of New York came to us and said, you know, you should take off 1% of all of the business we do with the city of New York and put it into a political action fund that we, the businessmen, can use to support or oppose candidates.
On the one hand, he raises more than $100,000 from big business, millionaires, and we can't get nickels and dimes from workers. And that's what it really boils down to.
Well, it would be as voluntary as my going to a commissioner and saying, listen, Mr. Commissioner, you really ought to think about putting 1% of your salary into a political action fund. You think that's voluntary? I think that's coercion.
This union, sir, has never been guilty of coercion. We have never had one iota of accusation in this regard. To raise that is a disgusting disgrace, and that's what this mayor is. He's a disgusting disgrace.
I believe in middle-class values. I believe in verities and honesty and integrity and leadership and decency. And I would hope that Victor Gottbaum, when he's not wearing his dunce cap, also believes in that.
The mayor is doing everything he can to kill the bill in the council, but should it pass, is prepared to veto it. Chances are the bill will not be voted on by the full council, even if it gets through committee, until September 30th. At City Hall, Roger Sharp, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Residents of the fashionable London suburb of Hampstead have blocked construction of a McDonald's in their midst. They seem themselves as worthy of more than the golden croquet wicket that marks the homes of Big Mac. However, the other 43 McDonald's in London seem to be doing well, medium and rare.
Next on Eyewitness News, we're going to be telling you about hundreds of young girls, all of them wanting to become Lolitas on Broadway. And we'll tell you why they want to become young Lolitas. Also, pressmen at the Daily News walked off the job for a while. John Johnson is there, and he'll have that story when Eyewitness News continues in just a moment, right after this.
Fresh fruit yogurt, La yogurt, La yogurt.
Cherry, berries, apple.
Blended, smooth and luscious, all fresh fruit, La yogurt.
La yogurt uses only fresh, real fruit and is blended the smooth, luscious French way. So every bite is full of 100% natural La yogurt goodness.
All fresh fruit, La yogurt, all fresh.
Provenance, the big bestseller by Frank McDonald. Provenance, where you go behind the exclusive facades of a world few will ever know. Provenance, where a trail of stolen treasures leads to deadly games. Provenance, where men buy love but are seduced by power. Provenance, where you find out the rich are different. They have more to lose. Provenance, an Avon paperback.
There are some great times waiting for you in Pennsylvania.
Come to Pennsylvania and relive some of the good old days.
And the really great nights.
We've got all kinds of festivals here. Take your pick.
Call this toll-free number for a free guide to a great Pennsylvania vacation. 'Cause this fall,
you got a friend in Pennsylvania.
Introducing a sensual new fragrance from France, Naïma by Guerlain. Become a Naïma woman at Bloomingdale's.